Chapter 9 My Generation, The Who. Originally released as a single, Decca, 1965, written by Pete Townshend. This is a song that does no favours for anyone and casts doubt on everything. In this song, people are trying to slap you around, slap you in the face, vilify you. They're rude and they slam you down, take cheap shots. They don't like you because you pull out all the stops and go for broke. You put your heart and soul into everything and shoot the works. Because you got energy and strength and purpose. Because you're so inspired, they put the whammy on. They're allergic to you and they have hard feelings. Just your very presence repels them. They give you frosty looks and they've had enough of you. And there's a million others just like you, multiplying every day. You're in an exclusive club and you're advertising yourself. You're blabbing about your age group, of which you're a high-ranking member. You can't conceal your conceit and you're snobbish and snooty about it. You're not trying to drop any bombshell or cause a scandal. You're just waving a flag, and you don't want anyone to comprehend what you're saying or embrace it, or even try to take it all in. You're looking down your nose at society, and you have no use for it. You're hoping you croak before senility sets in. You don't want to be ancient and decrepit, no thank you. I'll kick the bucket before that happens. You're looking at the world mortified by the hopelessness of it all. In reality, you're an 80-year-old man, being wheeled around in a home for the elderly, and the nurses are getting on your nerves. You say, why don't you all just fade away? You're in your second childhood. Can't get a word out without stumbling and dribbling. You haven't any aspirations to live in a fool's paradise. You're not looking forward to that, and you've got your fingers crossed that you don't. Knock on wood. You'll give up the ghost first. You're talking about your generation, sermonizing, giving a discourse, straight talk, eyeball to eyeball. Today it is commonplace to stream a movie directly to your phone. So when you're watching Gloria Swanson as faded movie star Norma Desmond proclaim from the palm of your hand, "I am big, it's the pictures that got small," it contains layers of irony that writer-director Billy Wilder could never have imagined. Of course, someone streaming something to their phone is most likely watching something even shorter and faster paced on TikTok. Certainly not anything in black and white with a running time of 110 minutes. Every generation gets to pick and choose what they want from the generations that came before with the same arrogance and ego-driven self-importance the previous generations had when they picked the bones of the ones before them. Pete Townshend was born in 1945, which puts him at the front end of the baby boomer generation, born right after the Second World War ended. The generation who fathered Pete and the rest of the boomers has been called the greatest generation, not a self-congratulatory term at all. It might be helpful to take a moment and define terms just a bit. What exactly is a generation? Currently, the common definition is a period of time that the statistically largest portion of the population born within a 30-year period is in control of the zeitgeist. Recently, we have entered a new phase, where anyone entering the age of 22 as of 2019 is now a member of Generation Z. While people make jokes about millennials, that group is now old news, as obsolete as all the previous generations, the baby boomers, Gen X, the fragile generation, the intermediates, the neutrals, the dependable, the unshaken, and the clean slate. Marlon Brando, like Elvis Presley, Little Richard, and the first wave of rockers, fell somewhere between the greatest generation ever and the baby boomers, too young to fight against the Nazis and too old to go to Woodstock. Yet when Brando replied, "What do you got?" when a local girl asked him what he was rebelling against in the movie The Wild One, it set the stage for the 60s and the rebellion against the picture-perfect prefab communities the boys came home from the war to build. Like lots of boomers, Pete seems to have a chip on his shoulder in this song. But he's not totally confident. He's somewhat back on his heels. There's a certain defensiveness. He knows people put him down just because he gets around. Perhaps he feels like he will never measure up, or he knows they resent his generation's newly abundant leisure time. He wishes they would just disappear, fade away. He hopes he dies before he gets old and is replaced like he is replacing them. Pete can't even point the finger himself. He depends on his mouthpiece, Roger, to hurl the invective. That fear is perhaps the most honest thing about the song. We all rail at the previous generation, but somehow know it's only a matter of time until we become them ourselves. Pete would probably be the first to tell you. He has a front row seat for the history of his generation. He could read the picket signs against hatred and war. Well, that certainly ended that. Thank you for your service. Each generation seems to have the arrogance of ignorance, opting to throw out what has gone before instead of building on the past. And they have no use for someone like Pete offering the wisdom of his experience, telling them what he has learned on the similar paths he has trod. And if he'd had the audacity to do so, there's every chance that person would have looked up at Pete and told him that he couldn't see him, he couldn't hear him. And that gave Pete another idea.